This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Welcome to This Week in Connecticut. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dennis House. It's Sunday, February 16th, 2025. Straight ahead today, President Trump created DOGE to look at government spending. Today, we'll take a look at Connecticut state government spending with Platt Liebau of the Yankee Institute. Also, a new look for one of Connecticut's oldest and biggest companies, the Hartford. Claire Burns joins us from the iconic insurance giant. Plus, the pizza trail, the movie trail, how tourism is pumping millions of dollars into our state coffers. Anthony will join us. And wrestling comes to one town for the first time ever, and it is now grappling with success. First up, the lead. President Trump created the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, to cut spending and eliminate waste. A conservative think tank here in Connecticut, the Yankee Institute, believes our state government should also do the same and follow that lead and cut spending here. I sat down with the Institute's leader to see what they're talking about. And joining us now from the Yankee Institute, Platt Liebau. And Carol, good to see you here in the program.
Wonderful to be here.
For our viewers who may not have heard of the Yankee Institute, basically what do you do? Well,
we're a policy organization, and we are the eyes, ears, and voice for hardworking people who want a prosperous Connecticut, Dennis.
So there are a lot of people who want to know, who've been emailing us here at the station, hey, what about local government waste? Because they've heard so much about DOGE and the cutbacks there, and Elon Musk and the president have been saying X amount of money has been wasted. Do you see any waste in our state government spending?
Well, there are a lot of places where I think we could probably save some money, and especially where you see the fiscal guardrails having been broken because we are told that, you know, there's this desperate need and nowhere else to get the money besides going back on a bipartisan agreement that the legislature affirmed just 2 years ago.
So as you go through the state budget, which you do, you study it, and you publish the salaries and the expenditures and all that, where do you see wasteful spending?
Well, you know, aside from waste, there are just a lot of places for savings. And so
such as
you look, for example, if we did a state employee wage freeze, we could save $360 million over the next 2 years. And perhaps that's something worth thinking about, because if you look, since 2019, our state employees have had a 33% wage increase. I don't know many people, many taxpayers in the private sector who've had a 33% wage increase just since 2019. So that's something worth thinking about.
And as you know, there are some people who are working remotely. Do you find that to be wasteful in and of itself?
You know, it's something that is
in your opinion.
Right. It's something that's worth our taking a look at, because, you know, you do look at state employees, and they are working from home, many 4, some probably 5 days a week. And that has a very real impact also on the private sector in Hartford. There are a lot of small businesses, a lot of things that have become depressed here in our capital city because you don't have people who are in the offices, and especially when these offices have been renovated for the express purpose of having a comfortable and efficient place. And you look, state legislators even are due for a 4.5% pay increase over this year and next year. And only perhaps in government would you get a pay increase when you're actually less accessible to the people you're representing.
I want to revert to what you just said about these office buildings. And they were renovated, many of them right before COVID or during COVID, and yet we're hearing that some of the offices are empty, that there are a lot of empty offices in these buildings. What do you think of that?
Well, why are we paying to maintain, and why do we pay to renovate offices if they're not going to be used? Why do we have a state workforce that isn't coming in to work for the taxpayers who are paying to employ them? And so I think that's something that needs to be examined. I mean, there are also other places where we probably could realize some savings. So, for example, you look at the state film tax credit. That is one place where the left-wing interest group, Connecticut Voices for Children and Yankee Institute, which is rather on the other side, agree. That's $112 million last year. That's something we could look at.
But isn't it good to have movies made here and crews getting hired and restaurants being filled with these workers?
Well, again, you know, it's a matter of priorities. Is it better to take a look at that, or is it better to break the fiscal guardrails that are assuring fiscal stability for our children and our grandchildren, and making sure that we can bond at a lower rate and that we have a better credit rating? And so, like anything else, it's a matter of priorities. If you look, we're also spending $1.3 billion a year on services for people who are here illegally. And so that's another area where we could take a peek at what's going on.
That $1.3 billion that you say the state is spending on people who are here illegally, what kind of services is that spent on? Where does that money go?
Well, all kinds of services, whether it's health or welfare or all other kinds of services that people who are in need receive. And these are people who are here illegally. So that's something that is a significant chunk of money that we should be taking a look at.
As you study the budget, where else are you seeing money spent that you believe could be saved or spent, better spent, I guess I'll put it that way?
Again, it's something where, you know, perhaps just the way that DOJ is taking a good look at the federal budget and identifying areas that need further examination and further transparency. You know, Comptroller Scanlon has done a good job of pointing out some areas that's the case here in the state budget. So, for example, the Connecticut state colleges and universities, he pointed out that the leaders there had taken procurement cards and he'd used them for things like buying tickets to gala events and dry cleaning and other improper purposes. There was another instance where $22,000 had been used for Connecticut public defenders for a day-long family event with unlimited clam chowder and pony rides. Now, I'm all for clam chowder and pony rides. I love them myself. But perhaps that isn't the best use of taxpayer money.
I want to talk a little bit about state pensions for some state workers, because some have said that maybe certain workers should have to work longer now that everyone lives longer, and that would save the state money. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, again, that's something where that's something that should be considered, and something where, yes, that is something that's appropriate. People in the private sector are doing it. And, you know, there is an inequity in asking the people who are supporting state workers to do things without asking the state workers themselves to do it. And firefighters and police officers pay something like 11 to 12% into their pensions, whereas state employees are paying about 6% in. Another area, Dennis, that's worth examining is health care. Here in Connecticut, state workers pay about 2% into their health care. The national average is around 14%. So all of these areas are places where we need people to really take a good look and think about how we can move forward in a way that's fair for everyone.
Well, we appreciate your insight on this. The Yankee Institute, Platt Liebau.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for being with us. I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Wonderful to be with you. Thanks so much.
And when we come back, inside one of Connecticut's oldest companies.